It's Amethyst Virgo. This video is tarot card reading for beginners. If you're an intermediate or advanced tarot card reader, I will be doing another video or set of videos where I talk about different types of spreads to do based on the question, how to handle clients, how to give feedback or give a reading to someone, how to summarize a reading. But today is for the beginners. So let's say that you've already gotten a tarot card deck or you are thinking of getting one. So my first step is going to be talking to you about how to choose a deck. You can start with a very simplistic deck. Or if you're a person who's more interested, I'm going to show you some decks that I have. Now, I would not suggest if you're a beginner to go buy 6 to 7 decks. You want to really get to know one really well before you start branching out. It'll really help with understanding what each card means. So I've been doing tarot cards, reading tarot cards since I was in high school. So this is my very, very first deck. Okay. So as you can see, okay, it is very well used. Okay, this is my first deck. Okay, so I had to kind of put it away for a little bit. I still use it sometimes, but I kind of just keep it, you know, packed up just because I don't want it, you know, them to completely crumble or anything like that. But I still sometimes do readings with them. All right, another deck that I have. So it's really important to look at pictures of what the cards are when you're thinking of getting a deck. If you're going to get something online, that's fine, but you want to at least be able to see a few samples of what the cards look like. A couple years ago, I got it, probably more several years ago, I got a deck from a store, and I thought I liked it, but it didn't vibe with me. I didn't really like the images. Some of the images were a little over the top, like kind of morbid or violent, really dark. And that's not my style. My style tarot cards, I don't mind, you know, tarot cards that show imagery of, like, you know, real life things, but I found ones that I think just fit with me a little bit more. So it's very important not just to get the deck that your friend has, but actually to get a deck that you would want to read with. So this one here, I'm sorry, I don't know the first one I showed you is Monte Farber, Amy Zerner. That's one of their decks. So I'm going to show you the second one, so you can get an idea what some of the pictures look like. No, I'm sorry. Unfortunately, I don't know the name of this deck. I will comment if I remember. But as you can see, these cards are bigger. So if you're someone who likes like bigger cards, you might want to get something that looks like this. And the images are very pretty and crisp and clear. The images are really nicely done. Okay, so I think of that when I'm getting a deck. Another deck that I have. Another thing I want to mention. Of the decks that I've shown, of the two decks, you've seen, you know, most of the, there's not a lot of people of color in those decks. Now, I still use them, I still like them, but if you're someone who needs to see more of your own reflection in a deck, there are multicultural, or there are decks that are for, you know, the imagery of specific cultures. Like one of my decks that I have that I really like is the African American Tarot, and this one has imagery from like African archetypes, African culture, but also African American historical figures as well. So I'll just show you some of them. Okay, if you look here. Okay, all right. You know, I do think representation is very important. And sometimes when I do readings for certain people, they want to see representation of themselves. Okay, so, you know, I still think the imagery on my other ones, I really like it. I really like my other decks, like just the pictures are really, you know, nice. But at the same time, you know, if you're someone who does readings for different cultures, or you're of a certain ethnicity or race, you want to look into having another deck maybe, or a deck that really speaks to who you are. If you're into multiculturalism, there's another deck. It's called the Spellcasters Tarot. And this deck has a lot of different ethnicities in it. So if you're someone who does readings for different types of people, you might want to consider this. Or I'll just show you some of the pictures just so you can see. Okay. And I'll link below. Okay, so this is another interesting one. Another deck is, it's called the Ilist Tarot by Christy Prokopiak. And this one, she uses imagery of, for most of the deck, not all of it, but for most of the deck, especially for the major arcana, which is the first, I believe, first 22 cards of a deck, which represent major events. The remaining cards represent more the day-to-day or daily tasks, or smaller events that build up over time. But her deck, she uses imagery from musicians and artists and some film stars as well, from like who were kind of big more so in like the mid 90s, late 90s, early thousands. So we have Lauryn Hill. Some of these people are still making music, but some of them aren't as in the public eye. Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen, Redman and Method Man as the Knight of Wands, India Arie as the Queen of Cups, Shannon Doherty, Queen of Swords. Okay, so that's just a sample of there. Okay, another deck that I have, this is astrology cards. So that's a whole different thing, but astrology cards, which intertwines the planetary influences with in regards to getting insight. Okay, so how do you learn all of these? Okay, so one thing I would suggest is when you go to learn, this is how I did it. Now you can do it whatever way. Everyone's a different type of learner. When I got my first deck, when you get a deck, the book is going to tell you what each card means and probably give you a keyword or keywords associated with that card. And what you can do is, I literally listed all the cards and the keyword next to it, and I memorized the words. Here's why I say memorize the words. When you first are beginning tarot, I suggest you stick with one deck. I had my deck for probably like 4 years before I bought another deck. Right? 4 years around that before I seriously bought another deck and used that. You want to be able, so you have to think about why you're doing tarot. You're doing it for guidance, hopefully, not just yes or no answers, right? And if eventually you get good enough to be able to read for other people, you're going to need to know, no matter what deck is in your hand, what a card means. All right? Let me show you an example of what I mean. So in the Ilist Tarot, we have images, right? But some of the cards, so once you get to different sets of cards, you have hearts, okay, which deal with your feelings. You have pentacles, which deal with money and finance. You have swords, which deal with your mind. And you have wands, which deal with action. Okay, and these cards all have different interpretations. So here we have the Two of Cups. In some decks, this is called the Two of Hearts. In some, it's called the Two of Chalices. So do you see how if you don't know what things mean, the imagery behind them, or the meaning behind them, if I get a new deck, I'm not going to know what this means if I only go by the picture. So some decks have pictures for every single one. So let me show you. The one deck that I have, look at this. This is the Three of Cups. This deals with memory and joy. This is the Two of Cups. But the Three of Cups in this deck does not have a picture. It just has 3 cups. So what I'm trying to tell you is, as beautiful as certain cards are, you do have to memorize what each card means on its own. If I hear Three of Pentacles, I know that means work and skill. If somebody says to me the Moon, I know that means journey. If someone says to me Queen of Swords, I think independence. If someone says to me the Six of Hearts, I think of memory and joy. If someone says to me the Three of Swords, I think of sorrow. Do you see what I'm saying? So if you want to get really good at tarot cards, I suggest you literally memorize what each card means. That way, every time you hear those words, no matter what deck you're playing, no matter what deck you're reading with, you know exactly what the card means. Okay? How does tarot work? I'll explain quickly how tarot works. 1, the fact that you're interested in tarot usually means you have some type of experience or insight to things happening, and you're like, wait, there's something more to that. I don't quite understand what's going on, but I know there's a deeper meaning. A lot of people have dreams that come true, deja vu. A lot of people know what's going to happen before it happens. Some people predict things in their family and their friend's life that actually happens. And some people are like, wait a minute, I've had too many coincidences happen in my life for it to be a coincidence. There are ideas behind that. All right, synchronicity, this idea that everything is connected in some way, and that is how we get messages through things, okay, sometimes in various formats. Also, the idea of the law of association. The law of association is that if two things have anything in common, or two people, even if they don't know each other, even if they're not close, that energy is shared, and that can easily help you in regards to being able to read cards for someone. So let's say like energy goes back and forth. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but like let's say you read for somebody, a stranger. Well, you need that stranger's name, you need that stranger's birth date, you need their situation, right? You're not going to blindly read for a stranger unless you're claiming, you're a full-blown psychic. And some people are psychic. Some people most of us, a lot of people just have psychic abilities, and we use tarot cards to channel it. So there's different types of readers. There are people who are psychic where they don't need cards. They go straight, to it. And some people, their gift is more channeled and they need more physical things. And then they listen to, they get the vibes and the energies of the situation and they interpret the cards. Okay. How do we practice though? What do you do? Here's what I suggest. Okay. So you just got your tarot card. You got your tarot cards, you're excited, you want to know, am I going to have a Valentine's Day date? Am I going to buy a new card? You want to know all these things, but you have to be able to understand what each card means first, right? What I suggest you do if you're learning tarot, you have your deck, you've maybe written out your list, and you're practicing each day. Each day you're practicing, you might cover one side and say, okay, Queen of Pentacles, all right, rewards or good luck, keywords with that, right? Okay, you're covering it, you're like, okay, if I get the Three of Wands, okay, that deals with opportunity. You're covering it and you're memorizing it. Same time you're memorizing it, you're going through your deck. Okay, you're going through, physically touching your cards. Here's what in 2018, the internet is great. Everything regarding, this platform that we're on right now, YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and all these things that bring people together. But at the same time, you want to be careful because